Why, hello, Aaron Fulk.
Well, hello, Sky Havens. How are you?
Doing wonderful. How are you doing?
I am good. Are you watching any of these NBA final games?
I am not. I don't. I feel weird that I'm saying no, but what about you?
Why am I so much more into sports than you?
Because you are way more into sports than I am.
I am. In fact, yesterday was really, really sad. I woke my son up, and Lily's on vacation, and so I said, "Let's go to Minnesota and go to the game." And we're at the age where he makes plans without asking me now because it's his last summer at home, right? So he's like, "Oh, I totally would," but I already have plans, and I was like, it was like such an opening eye parent moment that I hope you don't have to go through for a long time.
Well, I know a lot of people in the audience. They had a lot of graduations, but you had a graduation, but it was a big one. How are you feeling with the graduation, Aaron?
Yeah, so we have our grad party this weekend, and then we're officially done with graduations. My son, I'm so blessed. My son was like the video to kick off graduation, right? And he had all sorts of like the chords, and he had a lot of honors, and he's obviously going to school on a full ride in New York. So I'm blessed, but I'm sad. So I'm trying to enjoy every second this summer, which is why I was trying to take him to the game yesterday, and why I was going to ask you who you're rooting for. But it's fine.
I got nothing. I could tell you all about Disneyland rides and kids movies because it's summertime and we're trying to fill the time before the kids' camp start.
Yeah. We got a lot of camps this summer too. So, all right, let's talk about our sponsors really quick because we've got some awesome guests. I want to get to our guests.
So tariffs are not settling down. So if you have product coming from outside of the country, or you're just shipping a specialty project, what does that mean? So if you got a big telephone pole and you got to get it to maneuver around really unique spaces, you got to contact Bestway International. Now, if you're building something that's larger than a telephone pole, you need to talk to Evardy Construction. So Evardy does a lot of well-known projects, like if you're traveling and coming through the airport, when you think of those restaurants, Evardy Construction built those out.
I love it. I love it. Look who's here. So we want to know, are you watching from Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn? And are you watching the live or the replay? Paul's here watching from a Memorial Day parade float. After Memorial Day, Paul. And Paul is going to be guest hosting next month when I'm in Miami. I have to go to Miami for work.
Do you think Paul Fogel uses ChatGPT because his content's pretty good?
Maybe. I know you love it. I think he's hitting the right demographic if he's trying to hit the Scott Havens of the world. That's for sure.
That's why we balance the show out.
All right. So we have two awesome guests today. But make sure you go follow our sponsors. It's been, we're almost 6 months into the year. Can you believe that?
That's nuts. I felt like we just started.
I know. That's kind of how I feel too. I feel like this year's going way too fast. So, okay, let's just bring in I'm kind of trying to buy time while they changed all this software. So I'm trying to figure out.
Man, I wonder how many times they've changed the software on
all
you.
the time.
Oh, he doesn't use AI.
You can hire him for these one-liners.
Original.
Right, this is world's worst music, and we are bringing everyone into your favorite part of the show. Today we're going to welcome Tabitha and Max. Sorry about the music, guys. It's Jenna's favorite part of the show. So, okay. Tabitha, we will just start with you. Who are you? What do you do? And how do you get to Kansas City?
My name's Tabitha Davis. I am the owner-founder of Prestige Painting Worldwide, and I actually grew up here in Lee Summit and started my company in 2017. So what do? We do commercial painting, interior, exterior. I've got about 30 employees currently, and we're constantly growing.
Now, when you say internal, external, what were the first 2 or 3 projects you did as a business owner? I'm assuming you paid yourself a lot that first year, right?
Quite the opposite. I've slept on many job sites, so that's probably against the rules to even say which ones. But some of my notable earlier projects where I was actually having to paint was we actually did the Nickel and Suede headquarters up north, and I put a lot of paint on that building. I've also done work at World of Fun. And my first project ever, who's still actually a current client, is the Kaufman Performing Arts Center.
And so you mentioned you're around 30 employees. How do you, when you have big projects that come across, how do you figure out and balance how you can maneuver your people around?
Well, it's a awkward dance. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We just finished the Carriage Club, so that was one of the larger projects we had going on, and then we just move people around and try to make it work. Like I said, we're constantly hiring, so we're always looking for new people, better people. If you know anyone looking to that as a paint experience, we'd love to talk to them. So that is a solicitation to hire. We need more people. And that's, I feel like, a pain point that a lot of businesses are going through right now, but we do the best we can.
Okay, first of all, the clock's not working, so sorry. It's never not worked.
Okay, it's not just me. Okay.
I was trying other clocks. None of them are working. I don't know what's going on. Okay, well, I have two questions. One, what was your favorite project you've ever worked on?
Well, that's not fair. Wow. Just the most notable one is we just finished a 750,000 square foot bottling facility for Coca-Cola. I'm pretty proud that we were able to accomplish that. We did the painting as well as the joint sealants on the project. So that's something that I feel like not a lot of people can do, and we were really successful. So we had a pretty good end on that project, which is nice.
And then that leads to my second question. One, if you haven't been to the Coca-Cola History Museum, you guys should go. We've been like 20 times.
I have.
It's so fun, right? And you try all the different cooks. Okay, second question is, how are people finding you? Like, how do you find these awesome projects to work on?
So I come from a background in the commercial construction industry. I was a project manager for almost 10 years. And I feel like that kind of gives me a lot of the edge up. It's all about who you know and the networking and the industry peers. I have a lot of good connections in the AEC. Kansas City is a great, city to work for. Evardy, they're great guys to work for. You get to know these people and you try to build those long-term relationships. And that's something we really strive on. We want to be team players. There's nothing more I found frustrating as a project manager than people that it was their way or the highway or were so difficult or always wanting a nickel and dime. That's just not what we're about. We'll do everything we can to make you successful. And I think people see value in that. You want trade partners, not just people you're going to turn and burn.
Awesome. All right. I think that was around 3. I'm going to watch the clock, guys. It's going to be a little bit difficult. Well, we are so excited to have you here. Max, who are you? What do you do? How do you get to Kansas City?
Yep. Well, my name is Max Renner. I work with Pendello Solutions. We're a managed IT services provider. So we support small to medium-sized businesses through cybersecurity, IT support, and then just general compliance, depending on the industry there. For them, I do sales. So I do a lot of finding our new clients, outbound work, as well as kind of owning the whole sales process, which is something that I definitely enjoy about it. And then how I ended up in Kansas City. I'm originally from Platte City, so just right up north. So it's not too big of a jump for me. And then going to KU, kind of meeting a lot of people, and then kind of meeting people in my network like Scott kind of really showed me that Kansas City is a place where you can kind of meet people and really build a network. And there's a lot of opportunity if you just kind of put yourself out there.
I love that you're Platte City and you went to KU instead of MU. I have an outbound sales question. What are you finding in 2025 are some of the best ways to make new connections in the outbound sales world?
Yep. I think the calls are never going away. I think emails and that sort of thing can kind of get bogged down, but I think kind of just calling people and being a voice and a person on the other end of the line that can kind of answer questions and actually be a resource is something I found very beneficial. And I'm definitely a call focused person. Then also I like to just get out networking events and kind of getting out and actually meeting people. I think people say it all the time, but people like to buy from people, especially when you're in a kind of a relationship based industry that we're in, where you kind of want to trust who you're working with. So being able to put a face to a name is definitely a good way to do that.
Hold on, Scott. I have one more question because I really want to focus on this. How many calls do you think you make a day? And out of how many calls do you have a conversation? And how many of those are turning into appointments, do you think?
Yep. So a day I go for around about 40. Kind of owning the sales process, you kind of have to balance your time through other things. But I'd say about 40 a day. And then about off that, probably around 15 or so % are good conversations with people that I'm hoping to reach, and kind of those decision makers that everyone talks about and wants to get in front of.
I think that's important because we have a lot of younger people watch this show. So about 200 calls a week is what you're making. I think that's important. Okay, Scott, your turn.
Well, yeah, and of that, you're having 30 meaningful conversations, and out of those meaningful conversation, what ends up becoming a meeting, and one ends up, well, how many out of the 30 calls that are meaningful end up becoming a meeting?
Yep. So I'd say that's probably a little bit lower. I'd say maybe not on that first connected call, but I'd say about 2 of those turn into at least some sort of a planned appointment, or let's talk at another date, because I'm sure, like you guys are aware, people are pretty busy, so may not be the best time at that time, but definitely kind of follow up and continue those conversations.
But see, I think it's easier to cold call when you know, if I make this many calls, this many appointments come out of that, right? Because then you can be like, cool, I've got 160 more, and it's easier to get through those no's or those hangups or those no answers with knowing that. So I'm impressed you know your numbers.
Definitely. It's good knowing, it's because, I mean, it pays off eventually. So I think that's one thing I've learned is kind of just got to keep going. And people are always, when they're open to talk, they're open to talk, and just kind of be that person they want to rely on when the time comes.
Awesome.
You're really making me reflect on how many people I blow off, just so you know.
That's something also, talking with people that get a lot of calls, it definitely helps me understand kind of where I fit.
Sorry, it's not personal.
No, not all. And Tabitha, I'll move to you for the next question. But Max, it's funny, your numbers are literally identical to my numbers in 2010, 11, and 12 in terms of your percentage wise. So it's interesting how some things don't change. Tabitha, what was the most pivotal point in your career?
My career? Well, probably I actually impulsively quit my job 5 days after I got married. I was just so burnt out, and just felt like I was ready to pivot in a different direction. Really didn't know what I was going to do because I was young, dumb, and just thought I could do whatever. So that was kind of catch-22. I really didn't have a plan, but I didn't have a lot of responsibility or liability at the time. So that was kind of a, catch-22. But yeah, I mean, quitting my job has since changed my life. I mean, I've built something I'm really proud of. I'm able to do a lot of philanthropic work with local charities, saving, been named 20 to know in construction. And I feel like I've done quite a bit before the age of 40, and I feel like I'm just getting started.
So when you quit your job, did you already know you were going to start your company, or what was the thought process?
Not at all. No, I actually, I had thought about, I interviewed a couple places and just didn't know. The industry has changed so much, but at that time, that was right around your Me Too movement time. So some of that stuff I had been a part of, so that stuff I'd seen in offices, I'd witnessed, I'd been subject to. And then I feel like the tide has drastically changed of just what overall cultural, exceptions and norms are. But I just, I thought if I was going to work this hard, I could just do it for myself. I picked something with low exposure because I wasn't a master electrician, plumber, mechanic. So I picked something that, didn't have a lot of women business owners in the code, and just went with painting.
So Tabitha, speaking of that, with all your experience in project management, what other avenues do you maybe want to add down the road? And I also didn't understand, you said you painted a $750,000 project, but you also did something else.
No, the project was much more. The square footage was 750,000 square feet, was just the warehouse facility. The project was upwards of almost 2 million.
You said you did the painting in the joints or something.
Yeah, joint sealants. So that's like with the in your sidewalks and where the concrete meets the building, there's going to be a big joint. And then like in your tilt-up panels, there's a joint because it has to have movement for flexibility. Well, we pack that full with wool or backer rod, and then we caulk that joint, which is it's actually a Mason code. Fun fact, I learned a lot about it when we just kind of threw it on. But we I hired a guy who was the division manager that did the whole thing, and it worked out well. But it's not something. It's hard to find people that can do that. It's a niche for sure.
What would be the quick question? Because we got to move on. What would be the other business? What other services do you want to add down the road?
Well, we're really trying to get our foot in the door with roof coatings. I don't think anybody preps the site better than painters do. So I feel like that's something that would be really beneficial to us. And one, that's something we could travel and do. It gives us, when we have complete control over the project, I don't have to rely on other grown adults to have their job done, whether that be the drywall or the doors there or the rooms ready for me to paint or it's not ready. You know, I'm at a lot of people's mercy when it comes to that. But with the roof coatings, we prep it, we coat it, we're done. And that, like, if we're in control of the project, you know, sky's the limit of how far we'd be willing to go for that. So that's something we're really wanting to get into. And then I have a couple acquisition things I have down the pipeline, but really can't speak to it right now. But we have other areas that we're looking to get into.
Super exciting. Max, what was the most pivotal point in your career?
I think for mine, being fresh out of college, essentially about a year out now, I think mine came pretty early. I think kind of right after graduation, not having maybe that job lined up 4 months out and kind of banking on it and kind of graduating and then kind of having to figure it out was definitely my pivotal moment. And definitely with the help of people like Scott, kind of realizing that the best way is just kind of get out there and build those relationships and meet as many people as you can and kind of lean into the uncomfortable things. I think that's something I learned pretty quick is I had to get myself out of my comfort zone or else I was going to be content in the same spot for a while. So I think that was probably the most pivotal moment is having to kind of rely on, okay, now what? Now I kind of have to go find something. It's not really going to just sit there and come to you.
What were some of the unique things you did when you were looking for opportunities that other people probably didn't do?
Yep. So I think with some advice from someone that may be on this call, I think the first thing was kind of just put myself out there. I went and made a list of companies, put on my suit and my dress shoes, and kind of just drove with my printed out resume in hand in a cover letter and just dropped by their offices, introduced myself, why I was there, and kind of try to step out. I think people get those LinkedIn applications, and those are great, but I think still kind of doing what other people don't do is the key to success and being as forward as you have to be to kind of get your foot in the door somewhere.
Aaron, Tabitha, if someone showed up with a suit in sales, what would you think about that at your office?
100%. Squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Was this for when you were doing sales or to get a job? Which one were you saying?
This was to get a job. So
I've hired someone like that
I'd give you a job on the spot.
Yeah, I've done that too.
You can't put a price on giving a crap. You just really can't.
Yeah, I did. I think that's impressive. I have to find this, Max. One time there was a really great, it was like a BuzzFeed article, and it was what people were doing to get jobs at marketing companies, and they were insane. Like they were making like cakes with their resumes on them, like just to get past the front gate stuff. It was pretty cool. I'll try to find it. I saw it a couple years ago. So.
Sending a pizza with the message on the top of the resume.
Yeah, it was like the most creative ways to get a job. That's impressive. Okay. All right, Tabitha, it is halfway through 2025. I do not understand how, but where are you on your 2025 goals, and how can the Kansas City community help you?
Oh, Kansas City community. Well, I could stand to get my permit pushed through for our building. That's probably my most biggest. We're still waiting for the TI of our space that we're at down on the Southwest Boulevard. So we're excited about that, but it has kind of put a little hinder on some of our plan this year.
Are you taking the Danny's barbecue restaurant? I'm joking.
No, I am right next to Quick Trip and Minsky's. So like
wow,
building down there on Southwest Boulevard, which is also by a lot of our suppliers. So that doesn't hurt anything. But yeah, you guys will have to come to the Catalina Wine Mixer. Happy to have you.
You know, that's a very historic place in Kansas City.
I've heard.
Because you're on the state line. That was where bars have always been. So during Prohibition, you'd go from one side to the other.
Yes.
Keep going on your goals for 2025.
Guess I'll have to put the kegerator in after all, just to pay homage. But other than that, no. I mean, we're pretty much hitting most of our goals. The market, we're not feeling it too far yet, but you know, we're keeping our head down and just grinding. That's the goal till we know what's going to happen. But so far, so good.
What's the best way if somebody wanted to reach out to you, hire you? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Probably someone else in my office. But probably just call me. Honestly, calling. I'm usually on the road or talking or doing 5 other things. So a long drawn out text conversation, I'll usually lose it. Email, I don't always get to. But if you pick up the phone and call me, I usually always call someone back.
What is your company website if they're looking for those numbers?
That's going to be ppwkc.com.
Perfect. All right, Max. We're halfway through 2025. How are your 2025 goals going, and how can the Kansas City community help you?
They're going pretty well, and I think kind of my biggest goal, especially being, like I mentioned, newer into my role, especially, is kind of just keep meeting people and kind of building those relationships in the community. I think it's one of the benefits of Kansas City. It's a place where if you put yourself out there, it definitely can put you in some good spots and in front of the right people. And I think for me, that's just kind of continuing to meet people, especially business owners, and kind of understanding what technology looks like for them and kind of what things they're seeing or maybe experiencing that we could either help with or kind of help me to kind of build on my understanding of kind of technology within business.
And what is the best way to get a hold of you?
Yep. So the best way to get a hold of me would be call or an email, or just on our website, there's a contact form, and those happen to go directly to me, and that's pendello.com. It's PENDELLO.
Nice. How about do you check your LinkedIn very often?
Yep. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I don't post as much as I should or would like I did, but I do check it very regularly. So that'd be a great place to reach me directly as well.
90%.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say 90% of people have never posted on LinkedIn, but they still look at it. So if you would post, Max, you'd be beating out 90%.
Oh, yeah. Now, Max, what does an ideal client look like for you?
Yep. So we're in the small to medium sized businesses. So it's your 5 to 250 employees is kind of our size range there. And then our main focus industries are your financial services, so your independent advisors, and then as well as healthcare, and then just professional services. So that's kind of a broader category there, but we like to keep a wide range, but definitely focus on those 3.
Awesome. All right. Well, we want to thank you both for coming on. You can go and reach out to both of Tabitha and Max for all of your painting needs, your IT needs. Scott, thank you so much for being a great co-host. We want to thank Bestway International and Evardy Construction so much for sponsoring. And just a fun little announcement, check out the LinkedIn page for Drinks with Leaders. So if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, make sure you check out the LinkedIn page. We are starting a newsletter in June, so you're going to want to make sure and subscribe and learn more about Kansas City, people in Kansas City, things happening in Kansas City. So make sure you subscribe to that, and we will let you know once that comes out. Anyways, we hope you guys have a great day and enjoy the first half of summer. All right, bye.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.